October 2nd, 1943. Berlin, Oberkommando der Wehrmacht. Adolf Hitler sits in the Führerbunker conference room reading field reports from Army Group North when his aide delivers yet another production request from Minister Albert Speer. The document requests authorization for monthly production of 30,000 units of the MP-43 rifle and 200 million rounds of 7.92 by 33 mm Kurz ammunition. Hitler's pen hovers over the authorization line. For 18 months, he has blocked this weapon. 18 months of arguments with his generals. 18 months of officers requesting more of those new rifles from the Eastern Front. 18 months of buried production reports showing the MP-43 outperforming every infantry weapon Germany possesses. But the numbers haunt him. 8 billion rounds of 7.92 by 57 mm Mauser ammunition sit in German warehouses. Retooling ammunition plants for the new Kurz cartridge requires 86,000 additional workers Germany does not have. The Karabiner 98K production lines employ 200,000 workers across 12 factories. Switching to the new rifle means abandoning the most reliable weapon system the Wehrmacht possesses, yet the field reports are undeniable. Where MP-43 rifles deploy, German casualties drop 30%. Soviet PPSh submachine guns, which have slaughtered German infantry in close combat since 1941, suddenly become manageable. The 1st Infantry Division, fully equipped with MP-43s on the Leningrad front, requests 10,000 more rifles immediately. Hitler signs the authorization. He does not know that this decision will change infantry warfare forever. He also does not know that Germany's ammunition production capacity will make the weapon largely useless within 18 months. The weapon Hitler just authorized began development in 1938, 5 years before this October morning, in a Germany that believed it could conquer Europe with bolt-action rifles and blitzkrieg tactics. The Heereswaffenamt, the Army Ordnance Bureau, had started researching intermediate cartridges in 1934. Their calculations showed most infantry combat occurred within 300 meters. The standard 7.92 by 57 mm Mauser cartridge, effective to 800 meters, was overpowered for actual battlefield conditions. The Kar-98K bolt-action rifle, firing this full-power cartridge, gave German infantry reach but sacrificed rate of fire. The MP-40 submachine gun, chambered in 9 by 19 mm parabellum, provided automatic fire but lacked effective range beyond 100 meters. German infantry needed something between these extremes, something with the range of a rifle but the automatic fire capability of a submachine gun. In 1941, Polte Armaturen- und Maschinenfabrik in Magdeburg developed the solution. The 7.92 by 33 mm Kurz cartridge took the standard Mauser case and shortened it by 24 mm. The reduced powder charge decreased muzzle velocity from 760 meters per second to 685 meters per second. This seemingly modest reduction had profound effects. Recoil dropped by 40%, making automatic fire controllable. Ammunition weight decreased from 22.5 grams per round to 16.7 grams, allowing soldiers to carry more rounds. Effective range remained 300 meters, precisely matching actual combat distances documented in Wehrmacht after-action reports from Poland, France, and the Soviet Union. The cartridge solved a problem German infantry had faced since encountering Soviet tactics in 1941. Red Army doctrine emphasized close-range automatic fire. The PPSh-41 submachine gun, produced in quantities exceeding 6 million units, armed Soviet infantry with 71-round drum magazines and a cyclic rate of 900 rounds per minute. German soldiers with Kar-98K rifles could fire perhaps 15 aimed shots per minute. The mathematical reality was brutal. In close combat, Soviet infantry could deliver 6 times the volume of fire German troops could produce. Wehrmacht casualties in urban combat and forest fighting reflected this disparity. Reports from Stalingrad described German infantry pinned down by PPSh fire, unable to respond effectively with bolt-action rifles. The MP40 provided some answer, but its 9mm round lacked stopping power and penetration. Shooting through wooden walls or dense vegetation required rifle-caliber ammunition. The Kurz cartridge bridged this gap. It penetrated light cover like a rifle round, but allowed automatic fire like a submachine gun. CG Waffen und Fahrradfabrik in Suhl, led by engineer Hugo Schmeisser, received the contract to develop a rifle for this intermediate cartridge in 1942. Schmeisser, who had designed the MP-18 submachine gun in 1918, understood automatic weapons. His team created the Maschinenkarabiner 42H, designated MKB-42H, to distinguish it from a competing Walther design. The MKB-42H used a gas-operated tilting bolt mechanism that would become standard in assault rifles for the next 80 years. Gas tapped from the barrel drove a piston that unlocked and cycled the bolt. The mechanism was simple, reliable, and required minimal machining. The receiver used stamped sheet steel rather than expensive forgings or castings. This was revolutionary. German weapons production traditionally emphasized precision machining and expensive materials. The MKB-42H inverted this philosophy. Stamped sheet steel cost 1/5 as much as machined steel and required 1/10 the production time. Germany's toy industry, experienced in stamping complex shapes from sheet metal, could retool for weapons production in weeks rather than months. The economic implications were staggering. A Kar 98K rifle required 26 man-hours of production time and consumed 3.4 kilograms of high-quality steel. The MKB-42H required 12 man-hours and used 2.8 kilograms of low-grade steel. At full production, Germany could manufacture 2 assault rifles for every bolt-action rifle, using less skilled labor and inferior materials. But Hitler blocked production. His reasoning was not entirely irrational. Germany possessed 8 billion rounds of 7.92 by 57mm Mauser ammunition stockpiled for the Kar 98K. Switching to a new cartridge meant abandoning this investment. More critically, German ammunition production already strained to meet demand. Rifle ammunition production in 1942 reached 1.3 billion rounds annually, barely sufficient for Wehrmacht needs. Adding a new caliber would require building new production lines, training new workers, and securing additional raw materials. Copper, essential for cartridge cases, was scarce. Germany imported copper from occupied territories, but Allied bombing disrupted transportation. By 1943, German ammunition manufacturers switched to steel cartridge cases, requiring new tooling and creating reliability problems. Adding another caliber to this already strained system seemed insane. Yet field commanders kept requesting the weapon. In April 1943, Army Group North received 2,000 MKB-42H rifles for combat trials. The results were extraordinary. Units equipped with the new rifles reported 40% reduction in ammunition consumption compared to bolt-action rifle units. This seemed paradoxical. An automatic weapon should use more ammunition, not less. The explanation lay in combat effectiveness. Bolt-action rifle units, outgunned by Soviet automatic weapons, wasted ammunition firing suppressive fire to compensate for low rate of fire. MKB-42H units matched Soviet firepower, allowing aimed fire rather than desperation shooting. More importantly, casualties dropped. The 32nd Infantry Division, equipped with MKB-42H rifles in June 1943, suffered 22% fewer casualties over the following 3 months compared to divisions with standard equipment. Wounded soldiers described scenarios where the new rifle made the difference between survival and death. Obergefreiter Klaus Müller, recovering from wounds at a field hospital near Vitebsk, told interrogators, The Ivans came at us through the forest, 40, maybe 50 of them with those drum magazine submachine guns. Before, we would have been slaughtered. But with the new rifle, I put 30 rounds into them in 6 seconds. Automatic fire, controlled bursts. They went down like wheat. My Kar 98K would have given me 5 shots before they reached our position. These reports reached Hitler through unofficial channels. Officers returning from the Eastern Front spoke enthusiastically about the weapon. In July 1943, 3 generals being decorated for valor each requested the same thing when Hitler allowed them to make a personal request: more of the new rifles for their divisions. Hitler was surprised. He believed production had stopped. Instead, Haenel had continued manufacturing under the designation MP-43, claiming it was an upgraded submachine gun rather than a new rifle. This bureaucratic deception infuriated Hitler. He ordered Albert Speer to terminate production immediately. Speer complied, sending telegrams to Haenel and the other manufacturers, but production continued. Haenel's management decided they would rather face Hitler's anger than Wehrmacht generals' fury when supplies stopped. By September 1943, approximately 14,000 MP-43 rifles existed, deployed primarily to Eastern Front units. Commanders hoarded them, redistributing rifles from casualties to ensure maximum combat effectiveness. Field reports documented extraordinary performance. The MP-43's 30-round detachable magazine gave German infantry sustained firepower. The cyclic rate of 550 rounds per minute was actually slower than the PPSh-41's 900 rounds per minute. But the MP-43's semi-automatic fire mode allowed precise shot placement. German doctrine emphasized semi-automatic fire as primary mode, with full automatic reserved for emergencies. This conserved ammunition while maintaining tactical flexibility. The rifle weighed 5.22 kilograms loaded, heavier than the Kar 98K's 4.1 kilograms, but lighter than the MG-42 machine gun's 11.6 kilograms. A single soldier with an MP-43 provided firepower previously requiring a machine gun team. The effective range of 300 meters matched combat reality. Wehrmacht analysts studied thousands of engagement reports and concluded 97% of infantry combat occurred within 400 meters. The Kar 98K's 800-meter effective range was wasted capability. The MP-43 optimized for actual warfare, not theoretical scenarios. When Hitler finally tested the weapon in October 1943, he immediately understood its value. The weapon felt balanced. Recoil was manageable, even in full automatic mode. Accuracy at 200 meters exceeded expectations. Hitler authorized full production on October 2, 1943, ordering 30,000 rifles monthly. He also decreed that ammunition production would reach 200 million rounds monthly by early 1944. This was the moment the ammunition problem became inevitable. Germany's total rifle ammunition production in October 1943 was 108 million rounds monthly, all calibers combined. Hitler was ordering production increases that would require doubling total ammunition output. The numbers were impossible from the start. To produce 200 million rounds of 7.92 by 33 mm Kurz monthly required 86,000 additional workers. These workers did not exist. German industry already employed every available person, including foreign force laborers and concentration camp prisoners. Finding 86,000 more workers meant pulling them from other critical war production. More problematically, the Kurz cartridge required copper for cartridge cases. Germany's copper supply in 1943 was 42,000 tons annually, already fully allocated to existing ammunition production, electrical wiring, and other military applications. Adding 200 million rounds monthly required an additional 4,000 tons of copper annually. This copper did not exist. German ammunition manufacturers solved the copper problem by switching to steel cartridge cases. Steel cases required special lacquering to prevent corrosion and needed harder primers to withstand the steel's rigidity. These modifications increased production time and decreased reliability. Steel-cased ammunition was prone to extraction failures in automatic weapons. The MP-43's gas-operated action partially compensated for this by providing forceful extraction, but malfunctions increased compared to copper-cased ammunition. More critically, steel-cased ammunition accelerated barrel wear. The harder steel cases abraded the chamber, reducing barrel life from 10,000 rounds to 6,000 rounds. This created a cascade effect. More rifles needed replacement barrels, requiring more manufacturing capacity, pulling resources from other production. In April 1944, Hitler renamed the MP-43 to MP-44, incorporating minor production improvements. Monthly production reached 15,000 rifles, half the authorized target. Ammunition production reached 45 million rounds monthly, less than 1/4 of requirements. The gap between rifle production and ammunition supply widened daily. By July 1944, when Hitler attended a conference about Eastern Front operations, a general famously exclaimed, "More of these new rifles," when asked what the army needed. Hitler, impressed by the enthusiasm, renamed the weapon Sturmgewehr 44, or Assault Rifle 44, for propaganda purposes. The new designation emphasized the weapon's revolutionary nature. It was the first time the term assault rifle entered military vocabulary, defining a weapon class that would dominate infantry combat for the next century. But the propaganda name could not solve the ammunition crisis. By August 1944, when Hitler gave the STG-44 special priority status, Germany had manufactured approximately 75,000 rifles. These rifles sat in depots awaiting ammunition that did not exist. Wehrmacht logistics officers faced an impossible situation. They could distribute rifles without ammunition, or they could concentrate limited ammunition supplies to a few fully equipped units. Neither option was satisfactory. The 1st Infantry Division received enough ammunition to fully equip their STG-44 armed soldiers. Other divisions received rifles with 90 rounds per soldier, 3 magazine loads. Standard doctrine called for 200 rounds per soldier as basic load. The mathematics of ammunition consumption made the problem obvious. An STG-44 in full automatic mode emptied its 30-round magazine in 3.3 seconds. A soldier carrying 90 rounds possessed 10 seconds of continuous fire. Training emphasized semi-automatic fire and fire discipline, but combat stress made soldiers burn through ammunition. Field reports from divisions equipped with STG-44s documented chronic ammunition shortages. Oberleutnant Friedrich Steiner, commanding a rifle company in Army Group Center, wrote in his diary in September 1944, "My men love the new rifle. It is everything we needed against Soviet attacks, but we have no ammunition for it. Each soldier received 60 rounds 3 weeks ago. Nothing since. They fire their 3 magazines and return to their Kar 98 KS. The wonder weapon sits useless because Berlin cannot supply bullets." The ammunition shortage forced tactical compromises that negated the rifle's advantages. Company commanders designated assault groups equipped with STG-44s for offensive operations or critical defensive positions. These groups received ammunition priority. Other soldiers carried STG-44s without ammunition, reverting to KAR 98K rifles for actual combat. This was absurd. Germany had developed the world's first assault rifle, manufactured 425,977 of them by war's end, and could not supply them with ammunition. The production statistics tell the story of systematic failure. From June 1943 to April 1945, German manufacturers produced 425,977 STG-44 rifles across 4 plants. C.G. Haenel in Seoul manufactured 185,000 rifles. J.P. Sauer and Sohn in Seoul produced 55,000. Erfurt plants contributed 104,000. Steyr Daimler Puch in Austria manufactured 80,000. This production rate averaged 17,750 rifles monthly over 24 months. During the same period, German ammunition plants produced 822 million rounds of 7.92 by 33 mm Kurz ammunition. This sounds impressive until examined mathematically. 822 million rounds divided by 425,977 rifles equals 1,929 rounds per rifle over 2 years, or 80 rounds per rifle per month. Combat consumption rates for automatic rifles typically averaged 150 rounds per soldier per day in sustained combat. The STG-44s were receiving enough ammunition for half a day of fighting per month. By comparison, American M1 Garand production told a different story. From 1936 to 1945, American manufacturers produced 5.4 million M1 Garand rifles. During the same period, Lake City Army Ammunition Plant alone produced 7 billion rounds of .30-06 Springfield ammunition. This was 1,296 rounds per rifle. But Lake City was only one of 7 major ammunition plants. Total American rifle ammunition production exceeded 41 billion rounds. The United States produced 7,593 rounds of rifle ammunition per rifle. Germany produced 1,929 rounds per STG-44. The American advantage was not tenfold. It was not even 100-fold. The American ammunition production advantage was nearly 4,000 times Germany's per-weapon output. This disparity existed before considering that American ammunition was copper-cased, more reliable, and manufactured to tighter tolerances. The German ammunition shortage stemmed from strategic miscalculation compounded by industrial limitation. Hitler's October 1943 decision assumed German industry could rapidly scale ammunition production. This assumption ignored reality. Ammunition production required specialized machinery, trained workers, quality raw materials, and stable production facilities. Germany possessed none of these in adequate quantities by late 1943. Allied bombing had forced ammunition production into dispersed underground facilities. Quality control suffered. Worker skill levels declined as experienced personnel were conscripted for military service. Raw materials became scarce as Allied advances captured or isolated resource sources. The Reich Ministry of Armaments attempted various solutions. In November 1943, Albert Speer ordered 9mm parabellum ammunition production reduced by 30% to free production capacity for 7.92 by 33mm Kurz. This created ammunition shortages for MP40 submachine guns and pistols. In February 1944, the ministry ordered all new Kar 98K production to use steel cartridge cases, reserving remaining copper for STG-44 ammunition. This made Kar 98K ammunition less reliable, increasing malfunction rates in frontline units. In May 1944, forced laborers from concentration camps supplemented ammunition plant workers. Quality declined further. Ammunition rejection rates at quality control checkpoints increased from 3% to 18%. Every rejected round was wasted raw material and labor. By March 1945, German troops possessed 273.9 million rounds of 7.92 by 33mm Kurz ammunition, with 69.6 million rounds in reserve depots. This represented approximately 640 rounds per STG-44 in service. Standard ammunition load for an American infantryman was 80 rounds in en-bloc clips as basic load with unlimited resupply. German STG-44 soldiers were expected to fight an entire war with 640 rounds total. The tactical implications were devastating. STG-44 equipped units could not conduct sustained combat operations. After initial engagements depleted ammunition, units reverted to Kar 98K rifles, or MP40 submachine guns. The superior weapon became a liability, weighing 5.22 kilograms without providing combat capability. Field commanders developed informal solutions. Some units stripped STG-44s from casualties and dead soldiers, concentrating rifles and ammunition in fewer hands. One company might field 40 soldiers with STG-44s, while 120 soldiers carried KAR-98s. This maximized available firepower, but violated standard doctrine calling for uniform equipment. Other commanders hoarded 44 STGs for specific tactical situations. Defensive positions received priority. Urban combat operations received temporary equipment transfers. But sustained operations remained impossible. The Battle of the Bulge in December 1944 demonstrated the problem. German forces assembled 425,000 soldiers for the offensive, including 30,000 STG, 44 equipped troops in assault divisions. These divisions received priority ammunition allocation, 150 rounds per soldier, nearly double standard loads. The offensive began December 16th. By December 20th, 4 days later, STG-44 equipped units reported critical ammunition shortages. By December 23rd, most STG-44 soldiers had exhausted their ammunition and reverted to KAR-98K rifles scavenged from casualties. The wonder weapon that was supposed to spearhead Germany's last offensive became useless after 4 days because ammunition supply could not sustain combat operations. Obergefreiter Hans Schmidt, captured December 27th near Bastogne, told American interrogators, "We were told the new rifle would win the offensive. It is a fantastic weapon, better than your Garand, better than anything the Ivans have. But after 3 days, we had no ammunition. 3 days. Then we were back to shooting 5-shot rifles against your 8-shot Garands. The Americans never run out of ammunition. Ever. You fire and fire and fire and more ammunition appears. We fire carefully, counting shots, and still run out." American intelligence reports documented German ammunition problems with clinical precision. Captured supply manifests showed German units receiving 30 to 60 rounds per STG-44 per month. American units received 200 rounds per M1 Garand per week. The disparity shaped tactical outcomes. German infantry avoided prolonged firefights, knowing ammunition exhaustion was inevitable. American infantry accepted firefights, knowing ammunition resupply was guaranteed. This psychological advantage was as important as the material advantage. The German ammunition crisis extended beyond the STG-44. By late 1944, Germany's total small arms ammunition production could not sustain the Wehrmacht's needs across all weapon systems. Rifle ammunition production peaked at 124 million rounds monthly in July 1944, then declined as Allied bombing intensified and raw materials disappeared. Machine gun ammunition production similarly declined. Artillery ammunition production collapsed as copper and brass for cartridge cases became unavailable. By January 1945, some German artillery batteries limited fire to 5 rounds per gun per day. This was not tactical choice, this was enforced by ammunition scarcity. The STG-44 symbolized Germany's late war predicament. German engineering could design superior weapons, German industry could manufacture them, but German logistics could not supply them. This pattern repeated across weapon systems. The Tiger II tank was arguably the best tank of World War II, but Germany built only 489 before running out of resources. The Me-262 jet fighter outclassed every Allied aircraft, but Germany produced only 1,430 before petroleum shortages grounded them. The Type 21 U-boat revolutionized submarine warfare, but Germany completed only 118 before losing the war. The STG-44 followed this pattern. 425,977 rifles manufactured, 822 million rounds of ammunition produced, less than 2,000 rounds per rifle over 2 years. The mathematics of industrial warfare had determined the outcome before the first shot was fired. But the rifle's impact extended far beyond World War II. Soviet weapons designers examined captured STG-44s extensively. The 7.92 by 33mm Kurz cartridge directly influenced the 7.62 by 39mm cartridge developed for the SKS carbine in 1943 and later adapted for the AK-47. Mikhail Kalashnikov, the AK-47's designer, always claimed his weapon owed nothing to the STG-44. The mechanical operation was indeed different. The AK-47 used a rotating bolt rather than a tilting bolt, but the concept was identical. Intermediate cartridge, selective fire capability, stamped steel construction, 30-round magazine. Hugo Schmeisser, the STG-44's principal designer, worked in Soviet weapons plants from 1945 to 1952. Whether he directly influenced AK-47 development remains disputed. What is certain is that the assault rifle concept the STG-44 pioneered became universal. By 1960, every major military power had adopted assault rifles. The United States developed the M16. The Soviet Union fielded the AK-47 and AKM. Britain developed the EM2 and later the SA-80. France adopted the FAMAS. Every modern assault rifle traces its lineage to the STG-44's combination of intermediate cartridge, selective fire, and emphasis on combat effectiveness within 300 meters. The ammunition lesson was also learned, though differently by different nations. The Soviet Union built massive ammunition production infrastructure. A K-47 ammunition production exceeded rifle production by factors of 10,000 to 1. Soviet doctrine assumed unlimited ammunition supply. The United States similarly emphasized ammunition abundance. American military doctrine from 1945 forward assumed that ammunition supply would never constrain operations. This assumption shaped tactics, training, and equipment design. West Germany, rebuilding its military in the 1950s, learned the opposite lesson. The Bundeswehr emphasized ammunition conservation and fire discipline. German soldiers trained to fire precise, aimed shots rather than high volumes of fire. This doctrine reflected the bitter experience of STG-44 equipped units running out of ammunition. The rifle itself became a collector's item after the war. East Germany, Czechoslovakia, and Yugoslavia used captured STG-44s until the 1960s, when Soviet-supplied AK-47s replaced them. Tens of thousands of 44 STG were provided to Soviet client states, appearing in conflicts from Vietnam to the Middle East. As recently as 2012, Syrian rebels displayed caches of STG-44s discovered in government armories. 69 years after production began, the rifles remained functional. Ammunition scarcity had preserved them. Soldiers who fired few rounds in training and combat saved the barrels from wear. Today, functioning STG-44s sell for $40,000 to $80,000 to collectors. Modern ammunition manufacturers, including PRV Partisan in Serbia, produce 7.92 by 33mm Kurz cartridges for the collector market. The cartridge that Germany could not produce in sufficient quantities is now manufactured commercially for recreational shooting. The technical specifications that made the STG-44 revolutionary remain impressive 8 decades later. The 7.92 by 33mm Kurz cartridge fired a 125-grain bullet at 2,247 feet per second, producing 1,408 foot-pounds of muzzle energy. This balanced stopping power with controllability. The 30-round detachable magazine provided sustained firepower without excessive weight. The gas-operated tilting bolt mechanism was reliable in extreme conditions. Soviet testing in 1945 documented STG STG-44 function in temperatures from -40 degrees Celsius to +50 degrees Celsius without failure. The stamped steel construction reduced production costs without compromising durability. American post-war evaluations criticized the STG-44 as too heavy and crude compared to the M1 carbine. This criticism missed the point. The STG-44 was not designed for elegance. It was designed for mass production using minimal resources and unskilled labor. In this, it succeeded brilliantly. The tragedy was that Germany developed this weapon too late and could not supply it properly. British post-war evaluations noted that production changes between the MP-43 and STG-44, combined with poor quality steel from late-war shortages, compromised durability. This was accurate. STG-44S, manufactured in 1945, used inferior materials compared to 1943 production. But this reflected Germany's collapsing industrial capacity, not design flaws. The rifle design was sound. The industrial base supporting it had failed. The human cost of the ammunition shortage is difficult to calculate, but certainly significant. German soldiers equipped with STG-44s but lacking ammunition suffered higher casualties than if they had carried KAR-98K rifles with adequate ammunition. The weight penalty of the STG-44 without its firepower advantage was purely negative. Some soldiers discarded their STG-44s and reverted to KAR-98K rifles, but this violated orders and risked punishment. Wehrmacht doctrine required units to maintain standardized equipment for ammunition distribution and maintenance efficiency. A squad with mixed STG-44 and KAR-98K rifles complicated logistics and reduced effectiveness. Commanders faced impossible choices. Concentrate ammunition to maximize STG-44 effectiveness, but leave some soldiers without adequate ammunition. Distribute ammunition equally, ensuring everyone had some ammunition, but no one had enough. The optimal solution was to issue KAR-98K rifles to everyone and forget the STG-44 existed, but political pressure from Berlin prevented this pragmatic choice. Veterans' accounts consistently describe frustration with ammunition shortages. Unteroffizier Werner Hartmann, who served with the 12th SS Panzer Division, recalled in a 1988 interview, "The STG was a wonderful rifle. When we had ammunition, we could face any enemy. But we never had enough ammunition. I carried 90 rounds from January to March 1945, 90 rounds over 3 months. I fired 60 rounds in a single engagement. Then I had 30 rounds to last until who knows when. After that, I used a dead man's KAR-98K because at least we had ammunition for it." The mathematical reality of ammunition shortage created psychological effects that extended beyond tactical disadvantage. German soldiers learned to distrust their equipment. If the miracle weapon could not be supplied with ammunition, what other failures awaited? This erosion of confidence in German logistics and industrial capacity undermined morale more than battlefield defeats. Soldiers who survived multiple campaigns knew that equipment failure meant death. When equipment failures stemmed from ammunition shortages rather than combat damage, the implications were clear. Germany could no longer sustain warfare. Some historians argue the STG-44 came too late to affect the war's outcome. This is correct. Germany was losing by the time STG-44 production began in earnest. No infantry weapon could reverse strategic defeat. But this misses the deeper lesson. Germany developed a revolutionary weapon system and could not field it effectively because ammunition production was impossible to scale. This was not unique to the STG-44. The same pattern affected the Tiger tank, the Me-262 jet, the Type 21 submarine, and dozens of other advanced weapons. German engineering excellence created weapons systems that German industry could not support. The Americans approached the problem differently. The M1 Garand was not revolutionary. It was evolutionary, semi-automatic operation, nothing more. But American industry produced 5.4 million Garands and 41 billion rounds of ammunition. American logistics delivered this ammunition to frontline troops reliably. American tactics assumed unlimited ammunition and incorporated this assumption into doctrine. The result was that the merely good American rifle, supplied abundantly, defeated the revolutionary German rifle, supplied inadequately. This is the central lesson of the STG-44. Logistics determines warfare outcomes more than technology. Superior weapons without supply are inferior to adequate weapons with unlimited supply. The Germans learned this lesson in blood and defeat. Post-war German military doctrine emphasized sustainability over sophistication, practical capability over theoretical superiority. The STG-44's influence on modern military weapons is profound and permanent. Every modern assault rifle uses intermediate cartridges optimized for combat within 400 meters. Every modern infantry rifle emphasizes selective fire and magazine capacity. Every modern military assumes infantry weapons will be mass-produced using stamped components and minimal machining. These principles originated with the STG-44. But the ammunition lesson is equally important and less remembered. Modern military logistics assume ammunition supply will never constrain operations. Ammunition stockpiles exceed weapons stockpiles by factors of thousands to one. Modern militaries carry ammunition debts that dwarf weapon procurement costs. This is the STG-44's forgotten legacy, the recognition that weapons without ammunition are decorative burdens, not combat tools. Today, when military historians examine the STG-44, they see the grandfather of modern assault rifles. They see Hugo Schmeisser's engineering brilliance. They see the weapon that inspired the AK-47 and changed infantry combat forever. But they should also see 425,977 rifles and 822 million rounds of ammunition. They should see 1,929 rounds per rifle over 2 years. They should see German soldiers carrying revolutionary weapons into combat with 90 rounds and no prospect of resupply. The STG-44 was not just the first assault rifle, it was the first modern weapon system to demonstrate that industrial capacity matters more than engineering excellence. Germany invented the assault rifle. Then Germany ran out of bullets. The weapon survived, copied and refined by armies worldwide. But the lesson remains. The rifle that revolutionized warfare was defeated not by enemy technology, but by the mathematics of ammunition production. 69.6 million rounds in reserve depots in March 1945, divided among 425,977 rifles deployed across crumbling fronts, equals 163 rounds per rifle, 5 magazine loads, 15 seconds of automatic fire. That was Germany's ammunition reserve when the war ended. The wonder weapon that should have changed the war became another example of German engineering creating weapons that German logistics could not sustain. Today, surviving STG-44s in museums display pristine condition because they were rarely fired. The barrels show minimal wear. The mechanisms remain functional. These rifles are preserved not because they were carefully maintained, but because ammunition shortages prevented their use. They are monuments to engineering excellence and logistical failure, beautiful weapons that changed military history. Despite being largely unfired in the war, they were designed to win. The ammunition that was never produced doomed the rifle that revolutionized warfare. That is the true story of the STG-44. The assault rifle Germany invented, manufactured 425,977 times, and rendered useless by producing only 822 million rounds of ammunition. The mathematics of warfare determined that quantity of supply defeats quality of design. The Americans proved this with adequate rifles and unlimited bullets. The Germans proved it by creating the perfect rifle and running out of ammunition.